Hello and welcome to Business Edge right here on NewsCentral TV. I am Joe Hansen. Today, let's take a look at the headlines. Nigeria launches Autogas Gas to power automobiles. Kenya's treasury bills auction undersubscribed raises 15.4 billion. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring to you the stories right here on Business Edge. Welcome back to Business Edge, and let's go straight into today's story. The era of cars being powered with liquefied natural gases is here, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) said that it is going to provide free conversion services in some selected NNPC retail filling stations across the country. This is part of the efforts of the state oil firm in assisting interested motorists to switch from premium motor spirit (PMS), popularly known as petrol, to Autogas. This follows the launch by Nigerian government of the Autogas program called the National Gas Expansion Program. This was disclosed by the Group Managing Director of NNPC, Mili Kyari, on Tuesday, December 1, 2020, while delivering his address at the presidential virtual rollout of the new program. While delivering his address, Kyari pointed out that some selected facilities or retail outlets already have the capacity to provide autogas services in stations located in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, Kogi, Kwara, Ogun, Ondo, Oyo, Lagos, Edo, Delta, Rivers, and Bayelsa states. To help make sense of these developments is the managing partner, commercial partner, Nnamdi Nwizu, joins us here today on Business Edge. It's so good to have you join us today on the program, Nnamdi.
Good morning, my pleasure.
All right, Nnamdi, let's go straight into the question. Looking at this project, the big question is who funds or who finances this conversion?
Well, so I guess those are some of the interesting things. Government talks about setting up a number of stations or converted of stations that would be able to help with the conversion. So questions we're going to ask, like you said, will be who funds it? Because if it's the individuals funding it, then the question would be how would they, or how much would it cost them, for instance, to fund this conversion to the Autogas, right? So yes, it's a key question that you've asked there. How much would it cost? How many people can afford it?
All right, Nnamdi, the government says 1 million jobs will evolve from this program. Do you see that happening, and to what extent, realistically?
Well, so I think it's possible. If you were to go by, the number of people who are employed in the premium PMS sector, and if the Autogas becomes extremely popular in Nigeria, then it's something that we see or we think might be able to happen. It'd be good to look at it and see other countries. I know Autogas is used popularly in about 5 countries globally: Korea, Turkey, Russia, Thailand, and Poland are countries where Autogas is popularly used, and you have quite a robust business ecosystem around it. So if we're able to build that kind of ecosystem locally, then definitely you should have, because not just converting the cars to run on Autogas, but you're going to have things like servicing of the gas and repairs. So you're going to have a wide spectrum of people. So I think it's feasible.
All right. You mentioned a few countries, and could we rightly say that Nigeria will be the first African country to do this? And besides that, will this also add to boost the economy as well?
Well, will it boost the economy? It would, because basically what it means is that you're going to have the LPG, because Autogas is really LPG, and we know that we are one of the largest producers of LPG and have one of the largest reserves of LPG, right? So one, it will help reduce gas flaring, because what it means is that all the gas that gets flared can now be converted right, and used locally for the Autogas or domestic cooking and co. So create a good business opportunity for that. So definitely it can help us. Two, it helps alleviate the cost of petrol because people that switch Autogas is naturally cheaper than PMS. So if you're using Autogas versus PMS, what would happen is that it helps reduce inflation, helps reduce cost of running your businesses, help reduce cost of transportation, which would have an effect, a knock-on effect on the economy. And as far as I know, I think Nigeria is the only African country that we should be the first African country. No, sorry, I think Algeria already uses Autogas. So we might be like the second African country that will be using Autogas. Interesting.
All right. Could a new value chain, let's look at the value chain right now. Could a new value chain spring from the private sector and the gas sector due to this? Could we see a value chain from the private sector as well?
Yeah, so definitely, because from the private sector, they are the ones who are going to maintain the cars. They're the ones who, I assume, will do the conversion to start with. I don't expect to see the government actually handling the conversion themselves. They will most likely go into some kind of partnership with the private sector people who would handle that conversion. So definitely that I see.
All right, funding is a major bane of small businesses. Nothing specific has been mentioned in this regard. And at what rate will such facilities be granted after calculating the risk when possible?
Well, what we know is that the central bank has tried as much as possible to cut down the rates, lending rate in Nigeria. And recently the central bank facilities, central bank offer facilities have been going at about 5%. Initially it was 9%, but with COVID, we've seen it reduced to 5%. So at those kind of rate levels, even if they go back to 9% pre-COVID, then I think is a fairly good rate which they can avail to small businesses that will be participating in this conversion process.
All right, so minutes before the show started, we learned that the government now intends to bill car owners up to 250,000 naira to have their vehicles converted to run on gas. What do you make of that?
So the question will be how many people can afford it? So those who can afford 250,000 are those who most likely be driving the more sophisticated cars. And I'd like to know if locally we have the skills. So if somebody comes up and says he has the latest model Mercedes-Benz, for instance, and then those are the kind of people who you would assume will be able to afford 250,000. Do we have the expertise to convert such cars, or will it be more of the older cars that we think will be converted?
All right, Nnamdi, we'd like you to please remain with us. Let's go for a break. And when we come back, we'll look at another story, and then we can also get your analysis on that. Stay with us.
No problem.
Welcome back to Business Edge. Earlier on, we talked about Nigeria and the rollout program concerning Autogas. Let's take a look at another story this time. Kenya's treasury bills auction, undersubscribed, raises 15.4 billion Kenya shilling. The Central Bank of Kenya's CBK latest treasury bills auction, held on the 26th November, was poorly received, with bids worth 15.4 billion Kenyan shilling in total. This is against an advertised amount of 24.0 billion Kenyan shilling, representing a performance of 64.3%. This is the first time the weekly auction has been undersubscribed over the past 3 weeks, signaling a decline in interest from investors in the government paper. The most popular instrument was the 91-day treasury bill, which was oversubscribed, raising 4.6 billion Kenyan shilling against an advertised amount of 4 billion Kenyan shilling. The 182-day treasury bill attracted bids worth 6.4 billion Kenyan shilling out of advertised 10 billion Kenyan shilling. A 364-day treasury bill attracted the lowest amount of 4.5 billion Kenyan shilling out of the 10 billion Kenyan shilling offered at the auction. According to the CBK weekly bulletin, interest rates on all the Treasury bills tenors remain stable, only rising marginally. Interest rate on the 91-day increased marginally to 6.73% in this auction from 6.706% at the previous auction. The 182-day and the 364-day Treasury bill also rose slightly to 7.193% and 8.151% respectively from 7.152% and 8.094% at the last auction. The next auction date at Beats closure is on 3rd December, and 24 billion Kenyan shilling worth of T-bills will be on offer. Well, still with me on Business Edge is the managing partner, commercial partner, Nnamdi Nwizu. Nnamdi, is this a sign of investor fatigue looking at this auction happening in Kenya?
Yes, it's a sign of investors more or less not being happy with where rates are at the short end of the curve. So this is not the first time, that we're seeing under subscription. Even as just in August, for instance, you had about 3 straight weeks of under subscription in the treasury bills market in Kenya. However, they seem to prefer the yields at the long end. So you just undersubscribe at the T-bill section, but get oversubscribed at the bond section and even sell more than they offered. So it's obvious that investors would rather go to the long end than stay at the short end of the curve.
Could this affect Kenya's loan and debt payment options?
I don't think so, because as long as they're able to sell more at the long end, all they need to do is just move and increase what they want to sell, right? The only challenge would be if they have a ratio of short to long-term debt that they want to achieve. So in some countries, they want to have 30% short-term, 7% long-term. So if you have a scenario like that, it might be difficult to achieve if more people want to go to the long end versus the short end of the curve. So that might affect the balancing that they want to do. But as long as they're able to still borrow at the long end and it gets oversubscribed, then it means that they should be able to meet whatever debt obligations they have.
All right. Will this not in any way put more pressure on the Kenyan stock market?
Well, not really. The Kenyan stock market has performed poorly this year. Ideally, if people are not investing in the treasury bills market, you might have some people trying to move into the Kenyan stock market. So instead of putting pressure, it should be more supportive of that market versus putting pressure on them.
All right, it's no doubt that this will affect the Kenyan government coffers, but would it not further cause lenders to ask for more reforms?
Well, yes, so it's possible that if that happens, you might see lenders, well, I would say possibly no. Sorry, let me just repeat that, because as long as most of the borrowers that you see, most of the lenders rather, would be at the long end of the curve. You know, those who, like the foreign investors, the institutional investors, you have your pension funds and co in Kenya, and those are the people who would typically call for those reforms, would typically invest more in the long end than they would in the short end of the curve. So as long as you're seeing interest in bonds still coming from them, then I think that they're pretty happy.
All right, Nnamdi, the next auction is tomorrow, December 3rd. Do you have any predictions, or is the market too volatile?
Well, I think the market is still volatile, but I think you most likely see a lot more interest still in the bonds. So it's possible you see another undersubscription. The last few times we've had undersubscription at the auction, we've seen it dovetail into like 2 or 3 subsequent auctions. So it's very possible you see an undersubscription there, why people wait for the bond auction and put their money into that instead.
Thank you so much, Nnamdi, for taking time out to be with us here today on the program Business Edge.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so that was Nnamdi, managing partner, commercial partner, who joined us today on the program. Next up is NC4 to watch. On NC4 to watch, Zimbabwe to introduce cannabis tax. The Zimbabwean government will introduce a cannabis levy next year, which targets the sales to reach $1.25 billion. The Ministry of Finance has projected in 2021 the export earnings of cannabis will outstrip those of tobacco. The government has issued 44 licenses for cannabis growers. Nigeria-UAE signs MOU on multilateral partnerships. The Nigerian government has signed a memorandum of understanding with the United Arab Emirates, which provides a platform for both countries to establish a joint commission between the two friendly countries, seeking to enhance cooperation and coordination between both countries in all fields. The MOU was signed late Tuesday, December 1, 2020, and was disclosed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Yema, via his Twitter handle on Tuesday. While Oyema signed the document, by the way, he also stated on behalf of the Nigerian government, the UAE was represented by the ambassador to Nigeria, Dr. Fahad Al-Tafak. Kenya job cuts loom in deal with IMF. The Kenyan government is planning to merge or dissolve hundreds of state corporations, a move that would see thousands of civil servants lose their jobs. The latest restructuring, which is expected to start after Christmas, is one of the key conditions of the deal that Kenya has struck with the International Monetary Fund (IMF) for release of crucial funding for budgetary support. Egypt's tourism minister, private sector discussed fields, opportunities, challenges. Egypt's Minister of Tourism and Etiquette, Khalid Al-Anani, has held an expanded meeting with representatives from Egypt's private tourism sector. In attendance at the meeting were the president of the Egyptian Federation of Tourist Chambers, heads of chambers, heads of tourists, investor associations and tourism investors. The meeting was held to discuss a number of issues Egypt's tourism sector is facing and to identify the challenges and obstacles this vital sector faces in light of the second wave of the novel coronavirus. No doubt it has been a good show. Thanks for staying with me. For more business stories, do well to follow us on all our social media platforms. And that's the show for today. Until tomorrow, I am Joe Hansen. Thanks for watching.